Diploma, for the work that you do for our country, the work that you do for the future of our children, the future of our province. Thank you very much, Provincial Commissioner. Send our message to all the men and women in blue, all the South African Police Service members, that we see the work they do in the province and we support them. We want to walk the journey with them so that investors and business will flourish in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. But I'm becoming worried now that the Provincial Commissioner is in any event becoming more popular than myself.
Guys, have you actually saw the bromance between the Premier of Gauteng, Taminduli, and General Mkhwanazi? Man, these people, they get along. They get along every time. When I see Mr. Nduli, like General Mkhwanazi is there with him. Just like last time, you remember when they raided those warehouses that were importing that expired food to be sold to South Africans. The Premier was there and the General Mkhwanazi was there. I mean, I actually like this bromance that they have. But guys, you remember that a couple of weeks ago in the ad hoc committee, General Mkhwanazi spoke about Amapanyaza, the so-called criminal wardens in Gauteng that were started by Panyaza Lesufi. And I couldn't believe, man. You know, when people said that, no, you know, this Amapanyaza thing, they are named after Panyaza Lesufi, Panyaza and Amapanyaza. I mean, I was like, what kind of a narcissist is Panyaza Lesufi, man? What kind of a narcissist is Panyaza Lesufi? And there's something important that General Mkhwanazi said about those so-called criminal wardens in Gauteng. And General Mkhwanazi basically said that, no, these people are illegal. What Panyaza Lesufi did, he broke the law. This is what Panyaza Lesufi did. And let me just refresh your memory and remind you of what General Mkhwanazi said in his exact words.
Example of it is when the Premier of Gauteng, with a good intention to fight crime in the province of Gauteng, but they started a unit that by law should not exist. The Amapanyaza that is famous. I raised that at the POC. Then I said, this is illegal. It's against the law. The Premier must be advised. He's got good intentions, but it cannot be done. The law doesn't allow it. The very same senior managers in the police says, no, just leave the Premier alone. We like this proposal. The following POC, legal services came up with a presentation, and they argued the same thing that I argued. Legal services. They presented that which is done in Gauteng, it's against the law. It should not be allowed. So this was when there was an engagement at the executive authority between the minister and the Premier at the time. But already these members were trained, and they were said to be part of the provincial law enforcement structure. So my argument in the BOC and the support from legal services was not taken serious at the BOC. So they continue with the training. But because legal services had already taken note of it, they went to the minister and said, the minister, you cannot sign this off. It's against the law. Obvious, the Premier in Gauteng was not very pleased when the minister clearly didn't want to sign that. And as a result, to date, that unit, those group of members could not be incorporated into the Police Act as a result. So they are still there in Gauteng. I'm not sure whether they are enforcing the law or what they're doing in Gauteng, but legally they're not supposed to be there.
They are not supposed to be there. And what is said about this whole thing is that when you look at this thing, like the so-called Amapanyaza, Panyaza Lesufi tried to give South Africans this impression that as the Premier of Gauteng, I am fighting crime. So I'm going to have this bunch of incompetent people going around and harassing South Africans. These people know nothing about the law. But because we are just grandstanding here, I guess it is going to work. But then, if you look at Panyaza Lesufi as the Premier of Gauteng, let's look at the real crimes that have actually happened under the nose of Panyaza Lesufi. You can see that this was just a distraction to distract the people, because there's Amapanyaza, they were going around, they were destroying people's shacks, like they were doing all sorts of things, and people's attention was on that. But on the other side, the Tembisa hospitals, they were being looted. The Department of Health in Gauteng, they were being looted. All of these major crimes, they happened under Panyaza Lesufi. And I would actually argue that, this is my opinion, it is not a fact. It is my opinion that Panyaza Lesufi actually started this nonsensical Amapanyaza thing to distract the people from the real crime that was taking place in Gauteng. You know, guys, the day that I knew that I cannot take Panyaza Lesufi seriously, it was that day when he went on national television to say that there are criminals, they are hardened criminals that are committing crimes, and we know where these people are. We know who these people are. And soon enough, we will be making the arrest. I mean, like South Africans, they lost their minds. South Africans completely lost their minds. To say that, Panyaza Lesufi, if you know who the criminals are, if you know the crime that these people have committed, why are you not putting these people behind bars? Why are you going on national television to say that we are aware of you guys, of what we are doing, and we are coming? I came on the platform and I actually argued that it's almost as if Panyaza Lesufi was giving these people the heads up that we are on our way. Please make sure that you are not there by the time that we arrive. Because why would you have the whole premier of Gauteng on national television telling the criminals that we know who you are, we know what you have done, and we are coming? Why don't the premier just tell his people to go and arrest these criminals? And I knew from that day that no, Panyaza Lesufi should not be taken seriously. I knew that I cannot take Panyaza Lesufi seriously as an individual. I cannot take him seriously. So now, General Mkhwanazi told us that no, that crime prevention warden thing, it was illegal. Panyaza Lesufi knew that it was illegal. Bekicele refused to sign off in this thing. But he continued with this thing anyway, because this is how narcissistic he is. To see his name, to say, yeah, Amapanyaza, Amapanyapanya. And he went around the communities to say that we are fighting crime. We are fighting crime. While Tembisa Hospital was being looted. While Tembisa Hospital was being looted. And if you pay close attention to the likes of Panyaza Lesufi, they have never actually addressed these major crimes. No, they don't address these major crimes. They only address the petty crimes. Because this is exactly what he was focusing on. Or maybe this is what he wanted the people to focus on petty crimes. When crimes like the Tembisa Hospital was taking place. I mean, like Panyaza Lesufi as the Premier of Gauteng, guys. Like, if you look at some of the scandals that have come out of Gauteng, you'll be like, man, where has this guy ever been? Where has this guy ever been? But he has actually tried to argue that, no, I have been fighting crime in Gauteng. I have been fighting crime in Gauteng. I just do not understand. And after General Mkhwanazi said all of these things, I remember Panyaza Lesufi released a long statement. Guys, I love you. I'm not going to subject you to that. He released a long statement trying to say that, yeah, guys, you know, this thing is legal. I don't understand why General Mkhwanazi would say all of these things. Basically saying that General Mkhwanazi was lying. But then yesterday, Lesufi has actually announced that this Amapanyapanya nonsense of his will be disbanded, and it will be done in the phases over the next 36 months. He says that no, it is going to be disbanded. So I'm asking Panyaza Lesufi and his people that if this thing was legal, why are you disbanding it? Why are you disbanding it? And another question is, were you guys going to disband this thing had General Mkhwanazi not come out and told the South Africans about this nonsense? Were you going to disband it? Because him saying that this thing is going to be disbanded, guess what it means? General Mkhwanazi is vindicated. Is vindicated.
That I honestly feel that they are going to preoccupy our time and make us to lose focus at the task at hand. One is what is currently happening in the Madlanga Commission. We have one general says the structure is illegal. We have another general that says the structure is legal. Secondly, we have piecemeal arrangements.
Who is that general that said? Who is that general that said the structure is legal? when even the former police minister, man, even when Bheki Cele says that I'm not going to sign on anything, you know how bad it is for Bheki Cele to say that, no, I'm not going to do this thing. It has to be bad for Bheki Cele to say that, no, I do not even want to touch this. I know that I'm horrible as the Minister of Police, but I'm not going to touch this. So who is that general that Panyaza Lesufi is talking about? That said that that team of his, that illegal team of his was legal. Why don't he tell us the name of that person?
That I honestly feel that they are going to preoccupy our time and make us to lose focus at the task at hand. One is what is currently happening in the Madlanga Commission. We have one general says the structure is illegal. We have another general that says the structure is legal. Secondly, we have piecemeal arrangements. When in December we were designated to be peace officers, almost 400 of our wardens were given certificates to be peace wardens. And immediately after that, it was stopped, which simply means we have others that are peace wardens, others are not peace ward officers within the same unit. Thirdly, there have been exchange of correspondence from the National Commissioner.
I mean, to think that just people that were volunteering could be told to do police work, I mean, like it just shows how much these people disregard the importance of police work. And I'm sure, like, this is the reason why General Mkhwanazi had been pissed off with this thing, because General Mkhwanazi really loves the policing work. And when he sees the politicians like Panyaza Lesufi insinuating that anybody can just volunteer to do the police work, he said that no, something had to be done about this. Something had to be done about this, because if you have these people that do not even understand how the policing should work, can you just imagine how many laws these people actually broke? How many laws these people actually broke? It means that all of their operations were illegal. All of their operations were illegal. So the question is, what does accountability look like? When you are the premier, when you have initiated a unit that now it has been exposed to be illegal, what does accountability look like then?
Of police, the Provincial Commissioner of Police, citing limitations on the work and functions of the traffic wardens. And I convened the team and said, I don't want to operate in this environment, because to fight crime, if you lose legitimacy, then there's no impact that will make. If we feel the unit is either under-resourced, is under-trained, is not recognized, it really places us in the hands of criminals. So we have a provincial unit as a province. That's why you see them here in uniform. This is our unit that is legitimate, that have a constitutional mandate. Why not migrate the wardens into this unit that is doing the work already, rather than argue with people on the legitimacy and other things? So today we are announcing that they will cease to function in that format and be trained to join this unit, which is still under the control of the provincial government.
Man, I'm sure even moving these people from these so-called criminal wardens to making them in the traffic officers, I'm sure Panyaza Lesufi has actually broken a law somewhere there. Because it seems like this is a plan that they have. They are basically admitting that, yeah. General Mkhwanazi was right, man, about this unit of ours being illegal. But instead of just letting go of these people, we're going to try to incorporate these people into the traffic officers, which is unfair.
The fortunate part is that when we established the wardens, because the intention was to absorb them permanently and the intention was to pay them a salary after their training, the budget remains the way we budgeted for. So even if they absorb them in the new role, it will not need additional budget, because the cap of their salaries has been long determined and approved with Treasury. But we will still need to obviously replenish their uniform. We still need to replenish the the weapons that they need to carry now, the cars. I mean, the cars that they have, they are 3 years, and then they will reach the sell-by date of the cars. So there might be some additional resources in the future. But for now, in terms of their salaries and the work that they will do after training, it will not necessitate new additional budget.
But guys, can you just imagine how unfair it is that it gets exposed that this unit of Panyaza Lesufi that he has, oh my goodness, somehow named after himself, it is illegal, it should not be operating. And they are saying that we're going to take these people and now we're going to put these people into the traffic officers. What does it say about average South Africans that have been dropping their CVs at the traffic department to look for work? What does it say? And how fair is it, guys? It is not fair. Now I'm actually arguing for unemployed South Africans that have been trying to get into the traffic officers, into the traffic departments there in Gauteng. I'm arguing on their behalf. That what about those people that have been trying to apply? Because clearly these people should not be anywhere near the policing in Gauteng. They should not be anywhere near the uniforms of anything in Gauteng. If you guys want these people to now become the traffic officers, let these people take their CVs and apply with everybody else. But it is not fair to say that, no, there are no jobs for these traffic officers. People have not been employed in these traffic officers. But now, suddenly, these people, now we're going to push in these people into these departments that we have said that there is no job. No, guys. No, it is not fair. It is absolutely not fair. It is not fair. What about the people that have been applied? That is the question. What about the people that have been applied? So now, I want us to hear what the public protector says, because Panyaza Lesufi, as much as he slightly acknowledges that these Amapanyaza of mine, they are not legal, but somehow he still tries to argue that somehow they are legal. So what does the public protector says about this Amapanyaza thing on Panyaza Lesufi?
More. Yes, it is in line with that. The findings of the public protector are that the wardens are actually established not in line with applicable legislation. And
meaning that Panyaza Lesufi has actually broken the law. Like, why? Sometimes I wish these people, man, can just say it in the language that all of us can just understand.
The protector that the wardens are actually established not in line with applicable legislation, and therefore that they had to be regulated. So upon interaction with the Gauteng provincial government, even from the inception of our investigations and even with the Section 79, which is our notice of intent to make adverse findings and our intended remedial action, we had actually submitted as such to the Premier and the rest of those who are involved at the Gauteng provincial government.
Yeah, let's talk about how the Premier and the Gauteng provincial government arrived at the decision to establish and deploy the CPWs. You note in your report that both the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Police had rejected the Premier's request for this to be established under the Criminal Procedures Act, and that a technical committee was set up to advise the Premier on what possible ways could be followed for this to be done. They then decided to do it under the National Traffic Act. Talk to me about what level of responsibility the Premier must accept on his part for following the recommendation of the technical committee after the Minister of Justice had explicitly said no.
I think we must appreciate, Oliver, that from the evidence before us, there's actually no technical decision-making process that the Premier was actually involved in. It is the functionaries of the Department of Community Safety who were actually involved in this particular process and also advised up until decision-making stage of the legal provision within which the wardens must be established, which we then find that was inconsistent with the law.
Yeah, and of course there were financial incurrences as a result of the deployment of the wardens. It was perhaps outside the scope of your investigation and your considerations in this instance, but what is to be made of the consideration that money would have been spent under an illegal operation?
Of course, that is what we were concerned with, but it was not within the scope of our investigation. That when money is spent, we at least need to ensure that the considerations that are taken are in line with the law, hence the remedial action which we had communicated even in June to the Gauteng provincial government, is that they have to ensure that this particular project of the crime prevention wardens is properly regulated. More.
That's why I'm asking guys that what does accountability look like? When you are the premier, you are spending the taxpayers' money on illegal operations. So what does accountability look like? What does accountability look like? I don't know, guys. So please tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the like button, the most important part. Subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Bye bye.